Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And today we're going to talk about, I think it's an article in the Parish Gardens that you read, that you discovered from Oldcastle, is it, praising the pine trees?
Correct, and it's a purpose of a video we did in September when I was talking to Mary Caldwell, who wrote a very good article about the climate and the problems about that, and we had a great interview there about that. But one of the things that she, I suppose understandable, was the pine trees, as they're called, these evergreens that are dotting around this country now quite a bit. But when I visited the Parish Gardens recently, which I do regular enough, there's the stations across there as well, but there's also trees and information about them. And there was one about the pine tree in the garden, because they have a pine tree there that was, when the church was built over 100 years ago. It's 130 years old. There's a pine tree that's 130 years old in the parish garden. But anyways, it's a story about the pine tree, and I just mentioned it that there's another angle sometimes to these things that I come across, and I thought it was worth talking about. And it says, the story of the pine tree: between every two pine trees there is a door leading to a new way of life. And some writer called John Moore wrote that. And he also then, the waving of a pine tree, the top of a mountain, a majestic wand in nature's hand. Every devout mountaineer knows its power. Now, it can grow to 260 feet tall, and the oldest recorded is 4,900 years old.
Wow.
So, there's not too many human beings that can claim to be 4,900 years old.
Okay.
And in Ireland, in bogs, pine stumps, because Ireland was full of pine trees apparently. We got the impression it was only in North Europe, but it was full of it. Pine stumps found in bogs was 7,000 years old. So you can imagine how many was here. Now, they've good value because they make furniture, window frames, panelling, floors, roofing, and the native red squirrel prefers seeds of this tree. And the red squirrel is under protection because of the grey squirrel's
Dominance.
and correct, and it doesn't seem right, because the red squirrel was more native. This grey squirrel was introduced, and it turns out to be a vulture. We don't like vultures in the Christian Jobs, actually.
We certainly
don't. The pine
don't.
tree reminds ancient people of the importance of taking the overview.
Yes.
The overview. Look over the crowd. Okay, if you're small you can't see anything, but look over the crowd. Look, taking the overview because of the lofty position above other trees, the lofty position. Funny enough, years ago when people were, names were often, particularly in the sailing world, or sailors went, and the fellow that was tall was called Lofty, and the fellow that was small was called Shorty. So there was this description. So if you were tall, you were called Lofty. So
I seen a guy in the shopping centre the other day.
Right.
With his girlfriend. His girlfriend was about 6'3" or 4", which is very unusual for a woman.
Very unusual.
And he was about 7 foot tall.
But he should have been going with a small woman, and she should be going with a small man, because otherwise they'll have giants.
They're going to have giant children, the biggest children in Ireland.
Well, I wonder what these local from Ireland are that come from abroad.
Oh, they were Irish. They were two Irish, but it was very unusual.
Very unusual. I've come across some very people that nearly coming in the door, the normal door, they have to bend down.
He was like Jack and the Beanstalk going around the shops.
Correct, and there might have been some truth in those old fables Giants. And there was something about a giant one time. I forget what that story is, because these are all stories we heard when we were young, but we don't hear them now. I suppose they're probably considered racist or something, because of the lofty tree, and they believed it was a symbol of the elevated mind. The elevated mind. We try to practice that in the Christian Jobs Action Party, the elevated mind. And I hope we're not over the head of our viewers.
Of course.
Because we try to sort of keep things in a simple way, but there's some things that we come across that there's another aspect to these trees. Though these pine trees is not as bad as what we were being portrayed there before. They have a long association with Christianity. This is very important. Being evergreen, often said to represent God's love for humanity. And it was very popular in the 16th century. Now, I'm sure things were different in the 6th century. I suppose people had to probably go walk wherever they were going. If they were lucky, if they had a donkey, they were probably upmarket. And then if they had a mule, mules is very skittish, of course. A mule could plank you on the ground quicker than look at you.
Good, smart lad.
The well-to-do with horses. I'm thinking of that famous lad, written by Cervantes, the lad on the horse and his trusty companion, Spanish fable. I read the book and now the name's gone out of my head. This happens when you're kind of have the lofty mind. You can't think of what what you did. So it has an association with Christianity because it's considered their evergreen nature, God's love for humanity. So there's a thought about the pine tree that perhaps if we look at it in a very narrow frame of mind and it has great uses. But so therefore it does have a long association with this country and perhaps beneficial.
I know that, but I think the point that Mary was making was that it was used as a cash crop and they cut it down very quickly. What you're talking about there really is a tree that's allowed to grow maybe for a couple of 100 years.
Correct, but that they can grow that so that they're obviously, and the fact that it had this association with people in the olden times, and probably before the famine times when maybe Irish people were in charge of their own affairs before they were persecuted, shall we say. They were persecuted for hundreds of years in the penal times and hunted and destroyed and all the rest of it. And but now we've suffered the same thing again by our own crowd. The foreigner did it before and now we're having the same problem, and in due course this lofty business of this tree, we have to think that way and realise where the enemy is coming from, and the secular agenda is something that people with a lofty mind have to contemplate.
John Malone, you're a man of true wisdom.
Well, you see, this is it, and this is where, funny enough, silence at times. If you're in this frantic pace of life, the modern mile a minute, and if you're misfortunate to be looking at television programs that will not improve the mind or the spiritual outlook on life, silence is a good thing because it gives time for a bit of meditating and a bit thinking about other things. If you're continuously assaulted with music and with all sorts of stuff coming, have time for the sacred. Reflect, meditate. It does your heart good, it does your whole system good. Don't be afraid of it. Funny enough, I think when I was younger, I wanted to be out at the idea, staying at home at the weekend or something like that was nearly like a torture. Even when I was young, I wanted to be out all the time. So you do go through periods, but as you mature in life, you realise the waste of time that it was. But you did have to go to church confession, so you did have other aspects to your life.
We let you retire now to your library. Thank you very much, John.
Yes, I will retire and read a book.
Thank you very much.